What do you think of Joe Milton's resurgence? Is that more UConn? Is that more Joe? Is that more time? Just making him a better quarterback, and then we'll compare and contrast those to some other resurgent quarterback balls of the past. But what are your thoughts on Joe Milton to this point over the past couple weeks of the season?
Yeah, the toss to Ramel Keaton for the easiest touchdown we'll ever see at Neyland Stadium in Tennessee football history, that's probably about UConn, if we're going to be honest with you. And credit to Tennessee's players. They're not supposed to be able to run with Jalen Wright, and UConn was not able to. Same with Squirrel White. And Tennessee's offense confused UConn's players who should have been confused. Also have to hit those plays, and they did that. But over the last few weeks, the Alabama game included, at least the first half that we saw from Joe Milton, and the Kentucky game overall, and being able to go out there and exploit a much weaker team against UConn, I think a lot of that is Joe. I continue to believe that his impact in the running game makes him a better quarterback overall, makes the offense more dangerous. It causes the defense to have to pay attention to more. There's just more ways for Tennessee to make plays. So I think over the last few weeks, the resurgence, if we're calling it that, or the improvement, which is definite to this point, it comes to Joe changing a little bit of the way that he's playing, and Josh Heupel having a better feel for how to call the game. And his feel is going to be improved when he knows that he can utilize the quarterback in the run game as well as the passing game.
Josh, I know that touchdown pass to Ramel Keaton was the easiest touchdown pass in history. However, and I know that was about UConn, that play wasn't there against Texas San Antonio, and it wasn't there against Austin Peay. And so what I wonder is the reason those easy touchdown passes are there because of the other things that Joe has been able to do so much better recently, using his legs, hitting more of the intermediate routes, things like that are forcing teams, that are allowing Josh Heupel's system with the wide splits to finally work again where those downfield passes are open.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, that particular play, there was just historic confusion, it seemed, on UConn's behalf. But yes, to your point, I think the more that an opposing team has to pay attention to and prepare for and think about against Tennessee's offense, the more opportunity the Vols will have to exploit busts that will happen on the opposing side. Let's see. This Missouri defense 2 years ago got completely gashed by Tennessee's running game and was embarrassing, honestly. It looked like Missouri hadn't practiced or prepared for anything that Tennessee was going to do. Last year in the second half, Tennessee took off and was able to do what it wanted to. Missouri tightened that game up a little bit in the middle part. And remember, Joe Milton came in and hit a bomb to Squirrel White to close things out. Could have taken a knee to run out the clock. Instead, they decided, let's just launch the ball 50 yards down the field and see if we can tag on one more touchdown. So let's see if Missouri's defense is better prepared. They have some players. They've been really good against the run, but as we discussed earlier, so was Texas A&M, so was Kentucky at the time, and they couldn't do anything against Tennessee's rushing attack. Tennessee's going to try to repeat that again this week with Joe Milton to go along with Jalen Wright, who has to be motivated. I'm sure he is every game. He talked up what this running game could be this season, and they've backed it up. But the leading rusher in the SEC is on Missouri's side. I'd say that Ray Davis playing for Kentucky was a little extra motivation for Jalen Wright, and Schrader from Missouri might be the same for Jalen this week.
What do you think went through? What was the count when Tennessee decided to throw it deep? What was the score against Missouri? Do you remember the score off the top of your head, Josh?
What did they finish with 62 last year?
I thought it was 66.
Yeah.
Okay, last year was 66.
Maybe
hit
it was
66 one of the last two seasons, but yeah, they were destroying them. So
can you imagine being? Just imagine
gone.
being on the sideline. You're a head coach, and you're down 3 touchdowns, and you see a deep ball, and you're that fan base. Even if that's the right read, no matter what, even if you're running your offense, that's not going to sit well with your fan base or the other coaches, no matter what, right?
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, Caleb's right. They scored 66, so it's 59-24 with, I think a minute and change to go. I mean, the game's over.
You're up 35 points.
Yeah. They were able to take a knee the rest of the way and run the clock out, but decided to launch the ball halfway down the field. So, and Drinkwitz after the game didn't complain about it. He said in his post-game press conference, my job is to stop him, which is what fans often want to hear, right? Hey, you got to go stop him. But it wasn't sportsmanlike to do that
No.
when the game was over. And my favorite thing after was, well, hey, Joe and Squirrel, they need the reps to get ready for next season. Did you see the start of this season? Did that rep help them at the start of this year? So it was, just a bogus response. Just say what it was. Tennessee wanted to put on more points. They wanted to attack on another touchdown. Josh Heupel, he remembers that Missouri hired somebody else a few years ago. I mean, that's what it was. So that's fine. But I'm sure Missouri thinks about that a little bit. But more importantly, they probably want to. Yeah, they want to snap this losing streak that they have to Tennessee, and they want to finish on a high note after a really disappointing result last week against Georgia.
Yeah, let's get to some comparisons. Joe Milton's late season resurgence compared to some others. It's 4 downs, and it's brought to you by our friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Some names, good and bad, from the past. Guarantano, Dobbs, Crompton, Ainge. How does this late season resurgence compare to those? We'll ask Josh Ward that very question. You can hear him noon to 3 on the Sports Animal. As for Rick Terry Jewelry Design, they want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. So, Cooper Mays, what should people do that want to be a part of the program?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you. All right, here we go.
Coop here. First down.
First down. Guys, let me throw it to Josh first. I'll go back and forth. How does this comeback compare to Guarantano of 2019, Josh?
It's pretty comparable in that a lot of fans, more so with Guarantano in my opinion, but a lot of fans were ready to just move on and see a young quarterback. And the young quarterback behind Joe Milton is a lot more talented, a lot more highly rated than the guys that were behind Guarantano. But the fan base was saying, hey, let's see what's next. So to me, it's comparable to Guarantano and where the fans were with that quarterback.
All right, Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's comparable to. I think where the big difference is that Tennessee was not only was Guarantano not throwing well, Tennessee was not winning early in 2019. I mean, they lost to Georgia State and BYU. And looking back, I think part of it was, and I don't know what we're going to see of these receivers this year, but I think this one is a little bit more impressive because, let's be honest, Guarantano, you look at the NFL right now, Juwan Jennings, Marquez Callaway, and Josh Palmer are all in the NFL. So Guarantano had a bigger arsenal of weapons but he also had a worse coach. So, weigh it in and out either way.
Yeah, Guarantano was trying to make his comeback happen with Jeremy Pruitt at the helm, not exactly known for his ability to get an offense going. And I will stand by, more people were out on Jarrett Guarantano after remember the Alabama fumble at the goal line. It's a bad play. Everybody recognizes that, the face mask grab, but just about every fan said, I don't want to ever see him on the field again. And I wrote an article for Sports Animals website that week saying, not only will you see him, you will need him, and you will need him this week. And I remember people saying, friends that I know saying, I don't care. I don't want to see him. It's like, no. You got to have him or you're not going to win games. Like, I don't care. And he went out there and he played better and he helped them win games. They needed him at Kentucky. They needed him against South Carolina and Missouri.
College football sounding like a Scorsese movie. You're dead to me. You're gone. Get out of here. It seems like Dobbs 2015. Comparable, Josh?
No, I think there was still a lot more belief in Dobbs' potential, and the competition in the second half of that season was pretty weak. I think on the road against Kentucky, if he plays well, I mean, part of this is projection, I think, with Joe in this conversation. At Missouri, a ranked team, even Alabama on the road. It's also, to me, a little difficult to compare the 6-year guy versus a true junior who is still clearly in development mode.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Crompton 2009, that's getting to a couple of teams I covered really closely. That was, and sorry, Caleb, I didn't mean to shortchange you. How about you lead us off on this one? That was a case where they found what Crompton did well, and that was read one half of the field, a lot of rollouts. So your thoughts on the Dobbs 2015 and Crompton 2009? I don't know that schematically you could do anything to overhaul this offense for a quarterback. So I don't think you even have that option if you thought you did it with Joe Milton.
I think it's much more similar to Crompton 2009 than Dobbs 2015. I agree with Josh. Dobbs 2015. I don't think Dobbs played poorly through the first 5 games of that year. I think he was just Butch Jones just made some basic in-game mistakes against Florida and Oklahoma. But yeah, Crompton, you're right. They figured out how to use him, which is similar to Milton, though. I think Heupel's figured out how to use Milton. It's actually very similar, using Milton on a rollout and using his legs to make plays, just like they figured out with Crompton. And so I actually see a big comparison there.
All right. And then the last one.
Well, what does Josh think about? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Josh, what did you think about Crompton 2009?
Crompton's comparable in that, man, it hadn't gone well. And he was a former highly touted player that fans at one point believed, okay, he's our next big guy, like Milton, with the hype ahead of 2021 and this year, and kind of kept going back to him, and it wasn't working out. Again, the big difference to me with all these spots probably is Nico. I mean, part of the Joe aspect this season, I think, has also been wanting to see that 5-star guy and what he could do, because Caleb pointed out some of the Joe complaints was while Tennessee was winning. Not at Florida, didn't win that game, I know, but they're winning games still in a positive position, ranked in the top 20. That would be different than some of these other spots.
Yeah, and sorry, Cooper, I apologize. He's getting in my ear here. That was
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down.
Thank you. And now
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Ainge 2007. I thought from the day that Erik Ainge stepped on campus that he was going to be the starter and the guy, and that there were no issues from the quarterback position. I think there were issues in coaching. But I mean, to me, there was never much of a comeback, I guess, so to speak. And Caleb, let me start with you since you wrote this one down. There's never much of a comeback because I thought he would always be a very good player. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
Remember 2007, Tennessee started the year 1-2 with 2 bad losses, and then they suffered a bad loss at Alabama later in the year. The East should have been gone, and then they finished strong with eking out wins over Vanderbilt and Kentucky, which is crazy to say, but they won those games because of how Erik Ainge played. I mean, Erik Ainge played like a poised veteran throughout November, the senior that he was. Now, again, I think part of that was the defense maybe got a little bit better because they were horrible at the beginning of the year. But I do think Erik Ainge was a lot more efficient of a thrower. I think he had trouble adjusting to life without Robert Meacham in September and October of 2007.
Josh?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about an Ainge resurgence, to me, that's 06, where he and the team bounced back from disappointing 05. 07 was a weird year. Remember when they lost that Alabama game? That's Nick Saban's first game as Alabama's coach. And Dave, I think we're coming back to Knoxville wondering, is this going to be it for Phillip Fulmer? Because it was such an awful loss, and they had been destroyed by Florida earlier in the season, but they did rally, and Caleb was right. Erik was a big part of that. He has the 7 touchdowns with the overtimes included, of course, against Kentucky. That Arkansas game was a funny one because with those defensive issues, the talk leading up to that is this is Darren McFadden's Heisman game. And then Tennessee shut him down. Felix Jones got hurt at the start of the game, and Gerard Mayo came into the media room afterward and said Darren McFadden was not winning a Heisman in Neyland Stadium. So the media deserves all kinds of credit because we kept pumping up these storylines and they kept responding to them. I had Ryan Carl tell me on our 12 to 3 show, yes, you guys deserve credit for how we played, because if not for some of the outside criticism we felt was coming in, we probably wouldn't have responded the way that we did. So Erik was a big part of that. The team was. It was a weird year. They almost won the SEC title against LSU, but we know how that game ended up.
I went up to Gerard Mayo, and I went up to Gerard Mayo, and I just told him, hey, he gets my Heisman vote anyway. That McFadden guy's pretty good.
He should have won the Heisman anyway over Tebow. But
did you have somebody stand in between you and Gerard when you said that to him? Because Gerard's a very nice guy, but I've also seen how he can hit people.
And Josh told me to do it. Here he's standing here.
By the way, media coverage of Tennessee that year, and I don't ever blame the media, but let's be honest, the exterior coverage, I think a lot of people, Fulmer himself, feel like that's what killed the 2008 recruiting class. I think he had a lot of trouble recruiting in 2008.
It was
because you guys were so mean to him on the field.
It was my fault. And Josh.
Yeah, but and by the way, I didn't have my show yet in 07. My show started in 08, so no, that's Dave's fault.
Yeah. all my bad.